All right, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock, so roll call, please.
Mr. Smith. Here. Mr. Baker. Here. Ms. Trout. Here. Mr. Stein. Here. Mr. May. Here. Mr. Scheibe. Here. Ms. Poppy is absent. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, consent agenda. We need approval of the minutes from the June 24th, 2024 regular board meeting, as well as approval of the budget summary through June 30th, 2024, and investment summary through July 19th, 2024.
Motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor of that motion signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by nay. Moving along to the bills, just the bills that were mentioned here in the weekly update on page 1 towards the bottom there. Belleville Area Special Services, $19,219.45. That second semester billing for related services, hearing impaired, audiological, etc. Page 2, Common Goal Systems, $13,532.40. That's our annual subscription to Teacher-Ease. On page 4, McCullough's Flooring, $17,723.69. That's carpet replacements for those 5 classrooms. So page 5, ESIC, $127,519.45. That's property insurance and work comp insurance for this coming year. Just below that, Sheppel Boyle, $17,900. That's last year's audit. And that's it. And then today, you'll notice the oil and chipping is done out front. Dale Recker sent his bill. That is $25,646.73. That came today. So, anybody have any questions on any of those?
We don't have the bill from Heidi's firm, right?
I
didn't see that.
Then no. Got one. No, we don't. Wait a minute. Anybody else? Not, we'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on the approval of the bills as presented. Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Trout.
Yes.
Mr. Stein.
Yes.
Mr. May.
Yes.
Mr. Scheibe.
Yes. All right, reports of standing committees.
None.
Reports of special committees.
None.
Petitions and communications.
There were 2 Freedom of Information Act requests. First was from Creative Energy, who sought names and email addresses of board members, teachers, and administrators. And second was from Metro East Sun, who sought all contracts over $1,000 for this coming school year and employment contracts for teachers and principals. Both requests were filled. Just those 2.
Okay. Public participation. Anybody want to come up?
Hey guys, I'm Jack Walters. I did my Eagle Scout. Just finished it in April, and I did back to get my Eagle Scout award. That's during my ceremony. This is my book of all of the progress. There's paperwork in the front that's rubber banded. Feel free to take off everything select, but just pictures from start to finish. I'll pass it around.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes.
I'm Corey Lawrence. I teach 5th grade social studies here at Freeburg. And I know there's going to be a conversation about the learning days as far as snow days go coming up. And I know Scott Schultz, our former president of the union, had given you a letter sure, about a year ago maybe, on his points and good points on why we probably need to stick with the e-learning plan that we have now. I'm also going to give you a few, just from a teacher's perspective here, what we see. First of all, do we know how many snow days
Any snow days last year, we
the e-learning days? So I think so we're not talking about a lot of days. We don't get the snow we used to. We get a 30-year snow, we're off for 5 days. You haven't seen that. Also, a few years ago, I think it was put out to a vote with staff, and so all the staff members had input on what to do, and I think we were given 3 options. 2 of those options were e-learning, okay, and those days not tacked on at the end of the year, or give them typical studies. It was voted on by the staff in 50-1 in favor of e-learning days. Okay, I was the one. So when I'm up here talking, I was that one who voted for them to have the snow days. That was years ago. Okay, and the only reason I did that is because I'm probably the only staff member who's eccentric enough to want to sit out and weather that, due to my hobbies. So, but because things have changed so much since COVID, we now have the capabilities to connect with our students like we have never had before. Not in the history of the world have we been able to connect with our students the way we can now. So, that's thanks to Mr. Foster and the ad. So by not using those days primarily, those days are normally ahead of testing and not tacked onto. But my next point is the month of May, which is a chaotic, hectic month. Just in short, this is the days that fill up that short month of May. Spring concerts, ice cream party, carnival day, field day, snow cones, the musical, graduation is going on, staff volleyball game, staff basketball game, you have teachers' institution days. All of those days are taking place in a very short amount of time. We may have kids one day, and then the next day we have field day. And we have the kids another day, and then we have they're doing something else. Not one time do we ever have a full week of teaching in May. And by adding 2 days on to the end of May, we're not going to gain that much. Those kids are done. They are done with testing at that point in time. They have had field day the day before. In my 10 plus years of education, and our 30-year teachers will tell you this, those kids are done at that point in time. And if I was a parent, I'm usually planning a vacation for that time coming up too. I'm not planning a vacation in the middle of January. So that can also affect a lot of parents' vacation times. They plan this trip to go to Disneyland 2 days after they're out of school. Well, there's a good chance they might still be here at that point in time. And then the last thing, because these snow days are so rare, even when we have snow days, it's been ice. Okay, and if it's not been ice, it's been snow, but it's been 10 degrees, below 10 degrees, and no kid is going outside for 8 hours a day in that. They're just not. Even when we were kids and it was 30 degrees and snow, we weren't out there for 8 or 10 hours at a time. You came in, you did things, maybe have gone back out, but they're not losing their snow days by any means. Even if a kid would happen to spend 8 hours outside that day, it gets dark at 4:30, which means when they come in, even if they have 30 to 60 minutes, like Mr. Schultz had said, of work to do from that e-learning day, they're in by 4:30. If they go to bed at 9, they still have 4.5 hours to work on that 30 to 60 minutes of homework. So they're not taking away snow day from them. Okay? And most of the time at that point in time, we're not teaching new material, we're giving them a review. We're going over things. We're not trying to put 3 hours of homework on that day. And those kids are usually probably using the same technology that we're using to communicate with them. They're just playing Fortnite with their friends for several hours that day in a different house. And that's the reality of it anymore. All those points mentioned is in that 50-1 that I mentioned, that would be 50 or 100% of the staff members right now would probably agree to the e-learning days, are all the reasons why myself and the staff are in favor of keeping our e-learning days the way they are. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for your
you.
input.
Hi, I am Jody Goodnight. I am a sixth grade math teacher here. And as far as the e-learning days go, I have noticed personally in my classroom, whenever I make out my lesson plans, okay, this is the module that we're going over in math, from this time to this time, I want to do a test on this day, and I have that all mapped out. If there's a snow day, an ice day, or whatever cold day that may come up, I don't have to rearrange all of my plan. We can just keep going. Everything that we have available to us, I'm always available for Google Meets with these kids. They can email me. They have access to the math program online, that they can do things online if they have their book here. And if a student, for some reason, if their internet was not working or if they were unable to get to things, I can catch up a couple students whenever they come back, and we're not missing anything. If we take those snow days out and just have a regular snow day with no work at all, then everything is being rearranged and pushed back, which pushes back the learning that we can get done before testing happens in March. So we have that to kind of deal with. And then if we add something on to the end of the year, at that point, we're done. We're not really adding any more learning at the very end of May. Okay? We also have lots of kids that are out because the parents are taking them. So I would hope that you would please think about keeping the learning. Thank you.
Thanks.
There we go. All right. Name's John Lawson. I'm the post commander for Setters of Foreign Wars, Post 1739 in Belleville. You say, why is Belleville here? One, because I live here, and two, our post that was here in Freeburg a few years back, their charter was surrendered due to general lack of support to maintain their charter. So a lot of our veterans from the foreign wars have drifted up to Belleville, some in Millstadt, Waterloo. But what we've done at our post is we've started through a revitalization project to really bring back Americanism back into the community and really push forward our youth and teacher programs for the coming year. We were able to achieve All-American status, which recognizes top 25 posts in the world this past year through our efforts reinvesting back into the community. So what we have coming up this year, and last year I invited Freeburg to participate. Unfortunately, I think it was probably more of a timing issue that we were not able to get any entrance into any of our contests for Patriots Pin or Teacher of the Year. There was kind of a short turnaround on that one. So this year I'm hitting y'all in July. So this year our Patriots Pin, which is an essay contest for our 6th to 8th grade students. It's about a 300 to 400 word essay that the students can write, submit for judging. It goes through BIPOST, up to our district, up to state judging, eventually up to a national judging, where about $52,000 to $55,000 worth of prizes are distributed amongst the youth that participate in that program and make it that far. For those of you who have students in the 9th to 12th district down the street, their top prize is $35,000 for the Voice of Democracy, which is a pretty substantial chunk of money when you're considering the cost of post-secondary education these days. And lastly is our Teacher of the Year, which I think is one that probably more relevant to our board in particular, is it recognizes current teachers grouped into K to 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 12. So it fits kind of perfectly with our breakup of schools here as far as having our primary center and elementary center. So how it works is those teachers, anyone in the community can submit a nomination for those teachers, but typically we do ask for a resume and pictures, so that kind of happens to be you all that has that. But if there is a consensus of nominees that you would like to place forward, they come through my post, and we go through the judging process for that as well. Top prizes for teachers in the coming year are $1,000 to the recipient, $1,000 to the school, an award plaque, and then for the teacher, an all expense paid trip to the DFW National Convention in Salt Lake City. So that's going to be a good one. So with that, I will hand you guys some literature here to pass around and take a look at. It's got the QR codes with direct links into the applications that get submitted. If anyone wants to submit anything or would like to participate, you can contact me. I'll make sure that they get it good.
Very good. Thanks, John. All right, anybody else for public participation? All right, superintendent's report.
So registration, we still have parents registering. They have to come in to register. No more online. We're having many parents calling. Our phones are ringing constantly. So thank you to Rachel and Gina. They are contacting parents to update their residency. We have some things missing. So just contacting parents and getting those turned in, and again, updating, trying to get everyone registered. So I'll give you our numbers. Hopefully at the next board meeting, I'll have everything updated for you on where we are. In front of you, I gave you an updated bullying policy. So as of August 2024, there's some new language in bullying policy. I'd given you one in your board packet, but there's some new wording. I also, in our handbook, I went ahead and listed the procedures according to board policy of how we handle bullying at the school, just so it's a little bit more clear for parents to see how we handle. So again, tonight, I just wanted you to have some time to review it and then see the kind of the changes that we are adding in the handbook. The part in red that you see, conditions, that will also be in the handbook as well. So, been following this to as it states. However, 10 days we haven't been pretty good about getting everything done quickly. And the last one on reporting to the state board letter, that's a requirement for the state that's been there. If there is a incident of bullying, you have to report to the state. Any questions on the bullying policy? Anything that you'd like changed?
I'd like to have a little.
That's fine. We can bring this back up in August. If you're okay though, this will be in the handbook for like as is. Heidi had me add some of this language just to make it a little bit more clear for parents. It is in board press, but we just wanted to add it to make it a little bit more clear. So I wanted you to see it as well. So just so you know, it is in the handbook in August. As well, but I think that's totally fine. We can come back in August and discuss it.
All right. Let's see, update on the SRO.
Yes. So as you know, I attended the village board meeting. Michelle came and Bill came as well a few weeks ago. It was a committee meeting. The village has offered us the following with regards to an SRO. We had planned on spending around $75,000 for an SRO. They came back with a number of $87,500. Again, this is above the amount we had budgeted for a full-time SRO. They came up with this figure. They were feeling that their thoughts are cost of a full-time officer. They're going to have to add another officer to make this happen. They're not actually going to post as an SRO. They're going to post it as another patrol officer. So their thoughts are, if you take $110,000, which is around the cost of an officer, less the $75,000 that we were planning on coming to the table with, these are around $35,000 left that the village is kind of on the hook for this officer in the summer. They really don't need this officer, say in the summer months, because it's just they're hiring another officer for our needs. So basically what they're thinking is they don't want to give us that entire cost. They feel like that's a lot. So what they're trying to do is give us partial of that cost, which is around $12,500. So they're basically giving us partial that cost. So they're upcharging, I should say, instead of giving us $75,000, they're saying pay $87,500, kind of splitting that difference of the $35,000. Their feeling is the District 70 tax base is made up of more homes than the Village of Freeburg is. So to pass that total cost, they feel onto the Village of Freeburg is not fair. So they're trying to think of the Village of Freeburg like our tax base is larger than theirs. Again, I know that our vision is to remain on track. The full-time SRO, that is our vision. Question that we need to think about here is this the right timing based on the parameters set forth by the village? Are we really, is this the right time? We know the value of having the SROs warranted. Past 2 years, we've not been able to find consistency in our programming here because the personnel is inconsistent due to having different SROs. One day we'll have an SRO, maybe for 2 days, for 2 days we might have an SRO and then 2 days of a patrol officer. The village always gives us police presence here daily. But to fulfill the actual duties of the SRO aspect is difficult because this person is part-time. So it's difficult to manage this due to their ability, people, and schedules. So right now, it's more of a timing issue. Is it the right time to hire another officer, full-time status? That's what we think about. Is this the right time to move forward on the full-time SRO? Or do we wait till next year, continue working through some of these issues, and then next year when the contract is up and the high school is negotiating as well, is this the right time then? Because again, the village does have to hire at the post, they have to hire, and again, staff this position on the patrol side. Matt, I spoke to him a little earlier. He said, the goal is to get this done quickly, but again, you can't say it's going to be done by the start of the year. That would be the goal, but you don't know. That's their goal, though. Complimenting the village, they always have someone here. Never not leave us without somebody. But again, we have to make sure it's the right timing for us too. So again, want to see what the board thinks. Village is a good team partner for us. They always have been. But I need to see what you guys' thoughts are. Is this the right time for us? Is this the right time for them? Or is it better to wait as they work through some of their staffing issues as well?
Any thoughts?
When you say work issues besides money on our end, what other issues do you foresee that we could resolve in the next year?
Figure out that contract and have it in place so then they can start the year with somebody hired, so we can start the year and have the programming. Otherwise, start kind of in the same limbo position that we are now. So
are you saying if we okayed it, as said, pay that money? Are you saying that we have a full-time, like they're not going to be ready to have a full-time officer here?
they would have an officer. It might not be the SRO officer, but they would have someone here to start the year. It might not be the SRO. They would have somebody.
And there's a part-time person here now. They're not technically SRO, right?
So what they do, because of the way their shifts are designed, it might be 2 days SRO, and sometimes we have 3 different officers here in a week. And again, they never leave us without. So if they say someone's going to be here, somebody will be here. And it just makes it hard for planning. If we want to have them in a classroom or we want to do any programming. But again, Village always has something.
Does the village have more than one SRO trained officer?
They have the one at the high school, and then they have two other ones right now, to the best of my knowledge.
How does the high school work it out?
Theirs was hired at the start, that when this contract was initially done a couple of years ago.
And that didn't have a create a burden on the village because they're not there in the summer.
I think because this was done initially, it was probably planned for, but this will change, the high schools will change as well. So there'll be a change in cost at the end of this contract for everyone.
I think River High School gave it earlier in the summer, so there's time.
Wasn't it originally high school and part-time? We were looking at part-time, so only looking at one.
I think it was in June.
They changed their mind, made it full-time. So the question is,
Right, we were gonna split between the two schools.
so is the 87.5 for this year only, or is that for next year too? Or is there going to be a 3% increase?
That's a good question.
I would venture to say there would be an increase
I did ask
because our
that.
current agreement is incremental increase. River High School's current
I'd
agreement.
like to know what their percentage increase would be. I'm sure they're under a contract. They got that already negotiated.
I did ask that. Negotiations for the new police agreement will start in spring of 2026. So they'll kind of have maybe a better idea in the spring. They'll probably start that. So
Also, they're on the last year of the contract.
yes, they'll be starting soon. They'll be starting in spring. They now thinks for the next contract.
So really, the question before the board now, correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, is do we go into 87.5 for this year right now, knowing that we might be a little late getting an SRO here? Might be October before they start their trained, before we have a consistent SRO.
We get the full value of
To
that.
get the full value.
Or do we hold off, revisit it in the spring, finish this year? This is year 3 of our 3-year deal, having the part-time. Because we've got a part-time for this coming year, $35,000. We do that this final year, then next spring, revisit this, give the village, if that's the direction we want to go, give them ample notice to move in that direction. Those are our 2 options.
I think from a contract standpoint, the school has a lot that we could add to this contract to make it much stronger from our standpoint. And I think that would take time. So that kind of lends to what you're saying. Like, have time now, figure out how we're going to change it, and then by spring.
Well, we can try, Dave. I'm sure they'll have a say in contract
Right.
language, too.
Is it a 1-year contract or will it get a
For this one, it would be a 1 year to get it here and then come back to the table.
I mean, you talked about the full, sorry,
No, go ahead.
you talked about the full value of SRO. What nobody wants to talk about or say out loud is worst case scenario, somebody comes to school with bad intention. The 12,500 that we're off means nothing. Not a thing. There's your value. We're sold in all the other stuff, in my opinion, that's the value of having a full-time officer here. And that's where I'm at.
I mean, I feel similar. I think we have a responsibility. We agreed as a board to hire a full-time SRO. And considering it's a 1-year contract, I think it's an opportunity to see where it goes in the next year. We're not going to resolve the inconsistency issues if we have a part-time person. Acknowledging that they might not have the program ready until whenever have the right person hired, but I'm in favor of continuing the time SRO talked about.
They said we probably won't have an SRO full time start of school. Can they guarantee that we would have a body here full time?
I think that's our intention. But we can make sure that one of my questions, that is their intention.
Because like Amber makes a great point. Like it'd be better to have somebody here full time, just somebody here full time versus SRO half time. but like we need to guarantee that.
Right, and adding to the value of the program as much as possible. I mean, I'm sure there's like a template for the SRO programming, but I would think that we would have a large say in what that looks like for our school too, to make sure that we are getting the value.
And I think when I talked to Matt, it's said if quicker I call tonight or sorry tomorrow, it's on the agenda to get it today. So our goal is to
So you mentioned they're going to post it as just a regular officer position.
yes. So
With
to hire.
intent to be an SRO, or it's just to backfill maybe one of the other full-time?
So that full-time position would be our full-time position. It may be, but it's not like.
It may be someone in the force already. So they're basically posting a position, a control position. So it may be someone they already have that already has SRO. It could be, I don't know. But position is a patrol position. So someone might already be trained for all I know. So they might already have, it might feel quick. They do have to post in-house, he said, for I believe 5 days. And then they can post in the Tribune, the goal maybe by 1st of August. So they might even be able to fill quickly.
So it's the most important thing having some form of police officer here full-time when school starts. That's like the biggest priority out of all this.
Right? Yes.
That goes with what Bill and Amber were saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is Freeburg has needed a they're doing this in a sense, not just for us, benefit somehow, but we're the ones who need SRO here.
We're shouldering an extra cost, but so are they. That's
Right.
That's what's. So the question is, do we want to do that this year? Susan, if you guys are willing, then what we'll do is we'll let the village know, yes, we're interested. Draw up a contract. How do you want to review it?
The contract's pretty much already drawn up, based on what the board had decided earlier. I had been in touch with Fred, the attorney for the village. So he and I had been going back and forth, and then when the cost came up, we assumed that it was the same cost as the high school in this third year. That's what
So
caused a
conceivably,
little concern.
next month we might have a contract to approve
Absolutely.
for this, for the right enough for the school. Be kind of the time frame.
What the percentage? So I was here. Is that
And then we did do like 2 sort of night activities, so we did have some additional duties like the SRO.
Bucks an hour.
and where are we? We're paying 30 now,
35.
35 now. And then what's the village paying now?
What do you mean? We would pay $35,000 for the
For the
part-time.
halftime, what's the village paying?
Whatever
Whatever the remainder of their salary is.
yeah, whatever the difference would be on.
So you match the averages.
Yeah, that'd be about right. A little right. That sounds right.
And Heidi, you're saying there's an addendum that we could ask them to attend extracurricular activities if we felt like we needed as president.
Yes, we currently have that.
So would this be a non-exempt role, like they get extra for that?
This 35,000. When did the village initially say 35,000 for halftime? For halftime SRO, like how many? Like, because if it's been 3 years and you add inflation,
It went up incrementally each year. So last year was like 31. The year before that was 28. Or something like that. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but this is year 3 of that current agreement. Year 3 in the contract was 35.
so it's gone up like 3,000 to 4,000 a year
Something like that.
for halftime. So double that. That's 6 to 8 of inflation.
Well, it's the same percent.
Right.
Yeah, it was whatever their contract increase was what was applied to our years.
Right, if it's 3 to 4% per time, it'll be 3 to 4% against the higher amount.
Right. So that 87.5 maybe a little more in line with what it would have been if we had a full time. I guess it would have been less.
Well, I mean, that's where the issue is that there was an extra 12,500. I mean, the high school is paying 75 this year. That's what they're paying. They're asking us to pay a little bit more than that. So it's a little high.
Are there any other SRO options out there?
There are other options you can do, but again, if we want to stick with the village, which I feel like, as in my capacity, I feel like working with the village, who I feel like is probably the best in our best interest. They
Have a more
always,
vested interest.
yes, and every time we need them, they are there. They know our students, and I think that to me is our SRO vision, is knowing the students, and so I feel like that's probably the best route for us.
So the optics of how this looks, like, oh, it'd be about this, and then it's like whatever more than we thought. I guess optically I could see how some people may view that as negatively, but at the same time, Freeburg's never had an SRO program for anyone, and we've got it for 2 schools. I hate thinking what's going to be something that there's like a dramatic jump, and I hate that. Like, but at the same time, it may not be totally unjustified. Like, I don't think it's an unjustified thing, but I think it may be. I don't think it's unreasonable. You know, like what Bill's saying, get an extra 12.5 for somebody here that we know they're always here.
Yeah, I think back to when we were negotiating with the village for the crosswalk. We ended up shouldering a lot of that money too. So is this village's like best final offer? If you can't cough up this much extra, we're out. That's best and final.
I've spoke to them times, and I think it started out much higher.
I mean, there might be a grant use title last year, just that's on allocation. Said 20 SRO goes last year. So that's in play. Just depends later this fall.
Is that because is like the village like are they out of money? Their budget's up over. Like why are they like?
Because they don't need another officer. They're hiring the officer to give us an SRO. So then in the, 195 days that they'll be at school, the rest of the calendar year, they don't necessarily have a need for that person. So they are shouldering that burden as well, which is why they want us paying a little more. Because to them, if we tell them, no, we don't want to pay this, then they say, okay, we just don't hire this person because they don't. That's why.
And our taxing district is bigger than theirs.
Right.
So that also, so they have to be fair to the people of the village of Freeburg.
I'm very much in support of going full-time SRO like we discussed a couple months ago. I think go with the 1-year contract and see what we get out of the programming, and then we can renegotiate when it comes back around. And if we're not satisfied with the programming or whatever, can look into that a little more. But I'm very for it.
No, I mean, we've already voted to do full time. The question then becomes is we want to authorize the village basically to start looking. And that's what we want. And we've already voted we want to do full time. Okay. So does anybody else want to do anything different? Does anybody want to hold off? That's what we had to decide.
You said we want full time. If we step backwards, that's on us then. So at this point, we have to move forward.
Knowing that it's going to be that extra investment.
Yes, to that extra investment, to the extra cost. If we could have, I don't know how you add this in there, but just have the contract language a little tighter on. And I know they can't predict when they would have someone full SRO, but if there's a way we could tie our contract to like a performance, almost like we just can't have 3 different police officers.
Well,
all
once
the
they
time.
get these person solidified, that will be the person in our school, so they won't be pulling them.
Could we have
I see what you're trying to say. Can we give them a time frame to try and get this done by?
I mean, contracts have time frames. They have, like, this is what you do and this is the time frame. But I get, like, safety's doesn't, like, we have to have it. Or we want it.
So we want a full-time person here on the first day of school. And I know that their goal is to have an SRO certified person here ASAP.
I would just hate it takes 6 months to find a permanent person to be here all the time. That's my only.
Dr. Brink, my read on this is if they find someone in-house, this could go rather quick.
That's exactly right.
So that's I guess our hope is if someone internally is interested in it, then that can answer a lot of these questions for us. Now, if there's not, then
Maybe if it takes a few months to get it finalized, we can all just kind of work through it. I mean, I think we have to do it. And staying with the village long term is the best option. So
I'll make the motion. Do the increase for the school year. SRO. You don't need to. That's for the increase.
well, I mean, I think we'll just do that. We're going to go. That's going to be in the contract, so we'll just do all that at once. So we approve the contract next month.
I mean, they need to know that we're
And
okay
that's
with this.
yeah. They need the authorization from you to post it.
So
And if you guys want to take it home, we can.
I don't think we voted on the dollar amount last time, but
But we didn't vote. So that's like Mark said, contract with the dollar amount tonight.
actually, Jeff, so I can tell them we're going forward if the board's okay to go forward, and then action item next month to approve that contract. How does that sound?
I'm good. All right.
No, it's like every time we talk about it, we think we've got it, and then
Is another
it's
hurdle?
pulled back, it's another hurdle, and it's a lot more money. And I'm trying to think of what I want to say without sounding like a jerk. So,
I could
$110,000 total net salary, plus an option for like a $50 an hour evening. And that's including benefits. They're working 100 student attendance days.
Hey Jason, I don't want to, but I don't think that the $50 for nighttime activities will apply if you hire someone full time. The reason why we included that as we did them was that was outside their part-time hours.
Okay.
And so I'm fairly
Still
confident.
will be an exempt position.
Yes, I'm fairly certain that because that was part of the high school's original agreement was that their SRO would be present for nighttime activities. And because we were asking for the same, but we had a part-time officer, that's why we had to pay extra. I am 98% certain that we are not going to pay extra to have an officer attend our nighttime activities. That's going to be included as part of the full-time. But again, I'm going to have to check because I can't recall what the high school's contract says on that issue. But I'm fairly certain that is included. Yeah.
Could be an hourly rate.
Right. But I remember Fred and I were talking about that as to why we were going to have to pay extra for that. And the high school was, I believe, included in the
I'll call the village tomorrow.
All right, really the only, so the IASB updates, that's next on the agenda. The only real big thing coming up is the registration for the annual conference in November. So if anybody has any intentions to go, make sure you let Mark and Melanie know. Summer projects.
Yeah, moving along. The summer projects, the doors projects are supposed to start this week. They should be arriving. It should be about a 10-day project, so we should kind of a little closer than I would have liked, but we're still okay. So those are supposed to come in. Today, so hopefully tomorrow. Oil and chip is done out in the front. The ceiling in the back is done, as you know. Carpet replacement is done, and basically the thorough cleaning of all the building is on schedule. Most of it's done, and I want to thank all the maintenance and custodial staff for hard work this summer. They've gotten after it and kept us ahead of schedule, so I appreciate it. That was
Old business. Okay, new business. E-learning hearing.
Yeah.
Consider.
We need a motion to enter into an e-learning hearing to discuss the e-learning.
Make motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, motion on the floor to enter into an e-learning plan. All those in favor of that motion signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by nay. All right, we're in a hearing to discuss e-learning.
In your packets, you have the e-learning plan updated. I have met with teachers and gave them an opportunity to give any updates they would like to the plan based on our last 2 e-learning days and feedback they had. And this is the current plan as teachers felt worked best for them and their parents at this time. So, questions or thoughts?
I've got a couple of thoughts. One of the things I do not like about it, and I do appreciate when you guys all speak up about it. I'm not here on a daily basis. I'm speaking more of my experience, that we went through, no big deal. The kid that was in kindergarten, which was a big nightmare. And then talking with people in the community, neighbors, etc., that have kids that are at Laugh and Learn that don't necessarily get that on that one-on-one time on the computer like they should deal with that. Laugh and Learn is not really equipped to deal with that, So you got parents that come home at 5 o'clock at night and they're trying to go through this e-learning deal, and it's just a nightmare for them. That's where I'm coming from. Whenever I say I've got a couple of issues with it, it's why initially I was trying to compromise. I'm not saying get rid of it completely. I see the benefit in it, but my compromise was, maybe the first day or two just be a quote-unquote snow day. With all that being said, one of the things I don't like about it, the wording, is that the teachers aren't required to be there if it's just a one-day e-learning day.
Like that they don't have to get on.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not required. The kids are required for their attendance purposes and everything else, but they're not. Now, maybe all the teachers are available. I don't really know that, but I just don't. I'm not a big fan of that wording on there. Because it says if a student does not check in, he or she will be counted excused. Well, then I believe the teacher should have it on there also.
I think the connection is the only thing that I would say is a place for growth in the plan. And also the amount of time, like a limit. I think 30 to 60 minutes is appropriate. I know just from my experience that we spent a lot more time than that. So just kind of drilling down to see what does it take for planning purposes for teacher teams to make sure, so if there's four teachers and then the ER or whatever it is, it's like 12 and a half minutes of work for each one for 60 minutes. So putting it that way, Teacher's got a 25, 30-minute assignment that not everyone's going to do that, but my kids will. They'll sit down and be there for a couple hours because they want their willpower. They want to get it done. They'll make their teachers happy. And I think, kind of what Bill was saying, just that, and, Mr. Lawrence mentioned, we have the ability to connect like never before. So just that connection time, I think would make it a lot better.
Are you suggesting on the first day, potentially have a time for check-in as well, not just the second day? Or are you saying, I get your point too, that if they have art, they should coordinate 2 times as well.
I feel like just, even if,
So that's probably 2
I
questions.
don't want to put too much on it because you don't want to make a prescription for everybody for, because it's, K-8. So I just feel like there should be some sort of something coming from the teacher, some sort of instruction, either reading and asking questions or something like that. I think just that face-to-face time, and there would be improvement. So I think it's great. Other than that,
Improvement on the first day, checking, make sure that our special classroom teachers coordinate.
yeah, like the amount of time for session upper grades, but yeah, just this homeroom, just meet at this time, and everybody, we're going to read along. We're going to talk about whatever it is. If that's not realistic, we know it is because we had COVID. Just that instruction, the responsibility for that instruction is on the school. So I just, there needs to be some sort of component of the interaction with students.
I don't disagree with you, either of you do. I don't think it's impossible to have the live interaction, but like my son was a kindergartner during COVID, during the beginning of it, and he had Mrs. Gagan, and God love her, she tried every tactic possible to get kids on there and get them engaged and, do activities. It's rough. Even they would even just do like a 15-minute period, and then they would go on their own and do their own work. And they'd come back in the afternoon for a certain amount of time. I think for the older grades, probably more reasonable. For the younger grades, like K-2, I don't know.
Or just, I know that it says that the teachers are available by email, and I think that's intended for a lot of parents. And I think that the idea would be, teachers, here's the Zoom link, I'll be here. If you have any questions, hop on. Make it available, not required.
Right,
make it available for the kids, maybe not required for the teachers to hop on.
My son had Miss Hall this year. Either day she said from this time to this time I'll be available, and he got on there. He just missed her and just wanted to talk to her, and he didn't have any questions about homework or anything. Just chatted with her for a few minutes, then we went back to doing his packet. He just wanted to see her, and she made herself available. So maybe is that like enough of a connection in your opinion?
I think that. I think that kid's kind of satisfied with Bill's. Maybe I'm not trying to speak.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm not totally pissed. When's the last time we've done like a parent survey on how you learn? Maybe we ought to look into something like that. Because again, I'm start talking back to COVID where all this stuff started. Whenever they sent out that survey, it was like 60-something% of parents want nothing in 5 days in school. That's still the mindset of people aren't happy with the way e-learning is. Maybe it's gotten better, right? And people are happier. That's fine. Like I said, I'm more speaking for people that I've talked to that have a lot of concerns. It's almost, we're nightmares. It's just,
I think Bill's original point about what about the daycare kids, in my mind, it is a very valid point. After listening to the teachers talk, and just going through this myself over the years, I really think we need to keep e-learning so we can nail down a graduation date. Trying to figure out and have people plan around that's a nightmare. So from that standpoint, I love how e-learning works. But like you said, Bill, and Jason too, it leaves a little void for like the kids who want to really work hard at home on a snow day or e-learning day, but who don't necessarily have the ability to. So I would be fine with keeping e-learning. I personally like them, but maybe there's a way we could make the e-learning day more efficient for the student or caregiver. And the only thing I possibly thought was maybe we have two big daycares in town, Laugh and Learn and Imagination Station. Maybe there's a way we can't coordinate, oh, it's snowing, can't coordinate with them, but maybe have like hey, this is our e-learning procedure, and this is how e-learning works, and this is our e-learning expectations, and just give them a little thought on, it's not our job to go into the daycares, but if Bill feels that he's heard some parents struggle with, they get dropped off at daycare at 6:30 and I pick them up at 5:30 and then I got to figure out all this homework. Maybe there's a way when they're at school, at the daycare, for the people whose mom and dads, grandma, grandpas pick them up and they stay home for like a true snow day on an e-learning day. Those kids probably don't have the issues as much as Bill's talking about. It's these kids that just their both parents work. So I'm fine with keeping e-learning, but maybe just figuring out a way that we can reach the kids more during that e-learning day with having a teacher available for a certain time. It's not required. And then maybe just trying to coordinate or have something of information available to caregivers.
So just a couple, just clarifications on e-learning. So there's only 5 days that you can use as e-learning, and that's it. So after that, then you go into your emergency days. So if we use our 5 e-learning days, let's say that we have snow or pipe breaks or what have you, and we use all those. And then after those 5 e-learning days that we use, then we have some major snow event. We still then have to use emergency days. So those e-learning days go into play first. And then we still have to use those emergency days. So then we'll go in and we still use those emergency days. So basically those e-learning days are there just to put in place in case there's some emergency event or some other reason that we need to. Or the one day, remember last year, I think it was beginning of the year when the primary center was having air conditioning issues. We could have, if we would have had to, maybe put the primary center on an e-learning day, and here we could have stayed in school. They could have been on e-learning, and this building could have stayed in play. So that's another reason to have e-learning. You can kind of be flexible a little bit. So I just want to be very clear that you might end up going into emergency those other 5 days if by chance you go through all of your e-learning days.
And those emergency days are like snow days, what you're talking about.
Correct. So,
Thank you, Mr.
yes, I know we still need to have some public comment too, so we probably will go into public comment. So I just want to be very clear about that even though we have e-learning, we still may have to go into emergency days as well.
To your point, I don't have a problem with the current plan because in a typical year, the max number of days we have of e-learning is 5 in a school year. That's not that many. If we got into a COVID situation again where we were all at home, I think we'd have to reevaluate it because I think long term it doesn't work. But given that it's probably 2 to 3 days a year max, personally, I don't have a presence.
Valid point.
But
I said that's a valid point.
I don't think, how many times we've ever used 5 days? I can only remember one. And I think we ended up getting an exemption that year too. 3 years ago. Was it 3 years ago?
Well, I think.
But then you have like one grade that was all week. Perhaps it all week.
That was COVID.
We had
That was during COVID.
FY22, we had 5.
I mean, how does that play? Use a couple e-learning days and you get a whole grade that you get a quarantine and they're out all week.
That would be that would be like a,
zero.
yeah, we're not even gonna go.
Those
Yeah.
games were
We're not even going back. We're not. So is there any, I know we want to have some public comment, so is there anything else from the board so we can have some public comment on the, Mr. Lawrence, I think you wanted to speak, so if you want to, you can come on up to the podium and again.
just to try to give you some insight to what goes on. We have multiple different grade levels. You have young kids, not great on the internet at times. You have the older kids that are very self-sufficient. I'm answering emails on those days. That first day, we have the e-learning before second day, which then we're meeting. It's in person all the way. So that first day, we're answering emails. Now, you're absolutely right. Kindergartner is not going to send emails. Okay, COVID was a joke when it came to e-learning because we were all caught off guard. We had never done this before in the history of humanity. No one was prepared. We were trying to do whatever we could. I would have hated to have a kindergartner at that time in school. I would hate to have a fifth grade. Okay, I did that. I taught 5 times a day online, and it was a nightmare. I had more D's and F's that year than I've ever had simply because the attendance was like 60%. I hope I never have to do that again. So I would say if we were looking at months, yeah, we definitely need to probably reevaluate things. We might be looking at 1 or 2 things. Yeah. And as far as grade levels go, like my fifth graders, by the time we get to January, they're good at, hey, I know where to go to my email. They're not great about deleting those emails, but they know where to go for their email. They're in a Google Classroom. Everyone knows where to find their assignments. They know how to send us an email. Some of the teachers will even send home snow day packets. It's like, this is what you do on that particular day. And I know for the younger grades, like kindergarten, first grade, they're probably getting those things sent home. If the off chance, if the weather looks like we're gonna have a snow day, they'll send it home a day or two before.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of times those they don't have to check in with their teacher. They can send an email, but I will tell you from experience, on day 2 of having snow days, if I'm in there for the whatever 30 minutes it is that they can check in with me, ask any questions, I think I've had 1 thing. Simply because it's January, they're very self-sufficient at that point. Even though I sit there and wait, if they want to pop into the chat, they can pop into the Google Meter. But that first day, they're so self-sufficient for the most part in the upper grade levels that it's not a least bit of my concern. And if they can, they send it. Now, the younger grades, that's a different story. They probably have to take different things with that. And I know a lot of them send home stuff. I know even with COVID, we had teachers sending home a month's worth of stuff and trying to do that. But again, if we were looking at the big picture, which here we're looking at 1 or 2 months at most, if something that's happening. I just wanted to give you a little more of how I know teachers in the district do things to try to avoid the students sitting at home trying to do 3 hours homework. But I know Joe can back me up too. We know we're not sitting right there in front of them. It's not your guys' job to teach them the lesson that day. That's our job. And if we're not out of the picture, we can't throw everything at them like we could if they were right in front of us. So we have to take an approach we know is not going to have a kid up until 10 o'clock at night trying to do homework. That's definitely not any of our intentions. So I just wanted to give you and if you have any questions of how this has worked in the classroom, school the last few years since COVID, I'd be happy to answer any questions or have a conversation about it. All right, thank you. Okay, thank you.
I got lost. Still the same guys last time. The one thing that we've just completely neglected, I've only heard it from Mr. May here at this point. You fail to take into account the parents every time. The work world has changed since COVID. They're not just going and sitting home in their home office and working, take a little break here and they'll help Johnny or Janie out with their computer. They're forced back into the office. So guess where those children are at? They're at lab. Might be with grandma and grandpa. Any variety of places, but they are not equipped for e-learning. Secondly, there is not one single study, not one. I tried to debunk myself, trust me, you don't know how I work with data. There is not one single study that actually supports an e-learning a plus for the classroom. That's why nearly every single district is scrapped, because it does not work. I've got charts and data that I've dissected for your guys' district. I don't have 3 minutes here, so I can't take you through all of it. But I have mapped out our academic journey, class 2023 through 2028. I could pinpoint where the issues are. Surprisingly, our older students aren't as adaptable. Their scores continuously tank after 6th grade. We don't know why yet. I'm hoping we're kind of trying to figure that out. But e-learning is not going to fix that. You know, the argument that, oh, they're just not involved anymore. That's an engagement issue. We need to work on it. We need to be engaging with students and getting them educated. What's the difference between May 31st and June 1st? I don't know. Is it a field day, perhaps? Is it so important that we pin down graduation that we actually sacrifice the quality of learning for students? Is that so important? The only people that win out of the e-learning plan are teachers. Students lose, parents lose, the taxpayer loses, because the taxpayer is footing the bill for a full-time employee that's only putting in maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Out of the 4 squares that's supposed to be a community, that's supposed to hold everything together, make everything work, do right by everybody, 3 of those sides are not squared. Am I opposed to e-learning? No. I think there's a good place for it. I think it's there to prevent the prolonging of a school year. Use our snow days, and then at that point, e-learning is fine. I'm great with that. We can at least allow the teacher to have a predictable end to the year. The students are actually enriched by a quality education day. Parents aren't overburdened trying to figure out how to teach their child in their house because their teacher isn't there. And the student, wins, the taxpayer wins, everybody wins. E-learning is not a terrible thing if it's used correctly at the end of the exhaustion of the emergency. This is a relic of COVID that needs to go away with. We're no longer in it. We're beyond that.
We need a motion to re-enter regular session.
Make motion.
Motion on the floor to re-enter regular session. All of those in favor of that motion signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by no. All right. What do you guys want to do?
We're looking at maybe tweaking some of the language and restrictions. When do you need to have this
Which one?
plan?
The e-learning?
Yeah.
So I just need to, I could have it in August. That would be fine.
But we have time to get it out. I'm just asking. It's like some people want to address some of the points in it still. So table it. I'm just asking. I don't know.
And we really only have to have this figured out by like January.
I would say
No.
November later.
No, I have
There's a
September. September. So, I have.
so we have time.
August, I have.
We're gonna need some guidance on what you guys want
So I can change
tweaked,
it.
so we can go to the teachers, speak with them,
So they have
and
to approve.
discuss it down. So.
How does that work? I know we talked about that before when Scott brought it up. In terms of the teacher contract, do they have to fully agree with the plan that we come up
Yeah,
with, and
this-
that's part of their contract as well?
No, this is kind of a side agreement.
So I would meet with them, team, probably Scott and probably Teresa, see what she wants to bring in. She'd send it out to the teachers to see changes. They have to sign off on it as well.
There's a lot going on.
I could try. Teresa's on vacation, but I could go when she's back. See if we
Get 5 Mondays to do it.
But in the meantime, like, do you want us to email you
you would email me
comments or
some
things
comments and
that
ideas that you
people
would like.
want
I wrote down
to
some of the
consider?
ideas.
Let's do that in the near term, so that way it gives some time to pull it all together.
So we're going to table it for now.
Yep. All right, next was the student handbook.
In your packet, you have the student handbook. The handbooks are just like last year. I sent them to you and as well as Heidi. Heidi has sent back last night some changes, which I am now making. I sent them back to her today, probably a couple hours before the board meeting to review some of those changes again. But most of them are just new additions made recently. And then again, just some other things that she would like me to update. So you would, like you did last year, based on Heidi's recommendations, is how you did it. And then I sent it to her as soon as she did that, so we could get a copy. Or you could wait until the August board meeting, but that would be after school starts. So.
I was good with student. The both things are calendar that's not updated yet and clarify why that was.
So just approve it pending legal updates.
And the only changes are some new laws that went back as of July 1 and as of August 1.
Yeah.
So we're just changing language, or we're actually adding some new sections.
Yeah.
Just to be in compliance with these.
Yeah, I liked some of the new language that was there. It seemed comprehensive.
So, everybody good with just as this?
Yeah. So I need a motion to approve the 2024-2025 student revisions.
Make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor, the motion on the floor is to approve that handbook, pending legal updates. Motion on the floor to approve that. All in favor of that motion, signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, signify by nay.
All right, teacher handbook.
Same with the teacher handbook. There really was just a couple of things added, and again, those were just some legal updates. I think there was only about 3 or 4 things that were added. So, and it's the same thing that was in the non-cert, just so we have the exact same language. So.
Can I ask for a consideration that we table voting on those 2 handbooks until after closed session tonight? Would anybody have a problem with that? Based on what we have on our agenda, I think it'd be prudent to discuss and then act again just tonight still, but I wanted to clarify so that you're not necessarily for public consumption.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll just table it till after executive session.
All right, so we'll skip down to board policy revisions, second reading.
Yeah, there's the second reading of board policy revisions tonight. They'll be updated. We did the first reading last month. Today we'll do the second. Need a motion.
Second, Jamie.
Motion on the floor to approve those board policy revisions, second reading. As you know, all those in favor of that motion signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by nay. All right, motion to move into executive session to consider the appointment of compensation, discipline, performance, dismissal of specific employees, litigation, action, respect, and action filed, and conduct the same annual while closed. Second. All those in favor of moving into executive session, by aye. Aye. Any opposed, signify by nay.
Just a little.
I am not. I'm actually sorry.
Good job. Thanks for coming.
When send that.
He's gonna have that back.
Well, that's my say. Yeah, so we got all the
Looks like first motion will be. No, we're going to do the handbooks. Motion to approve the 2024-2025 teacher handbook. How do you want to? Is it pending any kind of
Changes by the attorney.
pending legal
Yeah, that's what we did.
legal revisions?
Yeah.
We did that. Pending legal. Yeah, so a motion to approve the 2024-2025 teacher handbook pending legal revisions.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Motion on the floor to approve that handbook. All in favor of that motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by nay. And a motion to approve the 2024-2025 non-certified handbook pending legal revisions. Need a motion.
I'll second.
Motion to approve that handbook. All in favor of that motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by nay. All right. Next one is approve the letter of resignation from Principal Lindsay Farr.
I'll second. Damon's first and second.
I said, can I say
Jamie's first, we need a second. Bill.
Motion to accept that letter of resignation. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by nay.
Nay.
Motion to approve the 3-year contract for Principal Stacy Summerfield pending that one change. I'll make the motion. Second.
Second.
All right, we're gonna do a roll call on that. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Trout?
my vote is in no way a reflection on the candidate, and I wish her well, but I take issue with board not being involved with hiring an administrator, so.
Mr. Stein?
58 million yeses.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. Scheib?
Yes.
Motion to accept the letter of resignation from paraprofessional Tammy Henny.
Second.
Motion to accept that letter of resignation. All in favor of that motion signify by aye. Any opposed signify by nay. Motion to approve the letter of resignation from paraprofessional Diane Stock.
Make a motion.
Motion to approve that letter. All in favor of that motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by nay. Motion to approve the following volunteer coaches: baseball, Jason Miller, Chris Smith, Steve Woodward. I'm gonna do them all. Softball, Brian Blumenkamp, Rod Daubach, Courtney Mizell, Jeff Keller, cross country, Tracy T. Mr. Baker. All in favor of that motion to approve those volunteers signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by nay. And finally, motion to release the following closed session minutes as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. February 20th, 2020, May 18th, 2020, June 22nd, 2020.
Make motion.
All in favor of that motion to release those minutes signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by nay. All I got.
Other business? Need a motion to Mr. May. Second by Mr. Smith.
All in favor of the adjournment signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by nay. All right, we're adjourned.